One of the questions we ask is, what do you love most about what you do? And you had said bringing creative visions to life for others and myself. So what is it about like envisioning things that drives you, that you love design?
I mean, it's really been my passion since I was pretty young, just as started with like drawing and things like that. And it's just developed into this just like ongoing passion where I just like to create things. I like to make new things and put them into the world, whether it be someone's brand or just art in general. Just making new things and creating them is really what drives me. It's just I have like a never ending thirst to just keep creating things.
That's awesome, man. I actually remember like high school days, you had this badass like Jim Morrison like Doors drawing. Like I think it was like in your room or your desk or something like that. I remember looking at it, I was like, did you draw that? And you're like, yeah. I was like, holy crap. Like that's insane.
That's funny that you remember. I don't even remember that.
Welcome to the podcast dedicated to real estate, insurance, and building your business. Join us as we take you along our own business building journeys with additional wisdom from our network of local and national experts. Welcome to Bricks and Risk. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Bricks and Risk. I'm Tim Garrity.
And I'm Sean Mooney.
Like the gear, man.
Pumped up.
All right.
Ready to roll.
We have our boy, Brent Bush from Brent Bush Design. What's up, man?
Hello, guys. Nice to be on.
Yeah, awesome.
Welcome on into the show.
All right, little background on Brent. So Brent has been executing design solutions for over 20 years in the Philadelphia area and beyond. Whether it be global pharma reaching all the way to Japan, real estate from the ground up, home decor, or the tech sector, he's taken on all challenges. Brent grew up in Philadelphia and currently resides in South Philly with his wife, Ashleen, correct?
Well done.
And dog, Nico, who's a girl. Bishop McDevitt High School grad. What's up, Lancers?
Go Lancers.
And Philadelphia College of Textiles and Sciences, which is also known as Philadelphia University, as well as the new Jefferson University.
Correct.
Nice. All right. So we're going to talk about branding today. We got a lot of little subtle clues swimming around this episode, thanks to my pal Sean over here.
Am I like a wannabe brand designer?
I think so. All right. So let's talk about branding specifically. So that's your specialty.
Correct. Yep.
So how do you personally go about starting the branding process with a client?
That's probably the most important part, is the discovery part. And that's probably the part that really separates like a designer from something that you would get online for like, say, like Fiverr or things like that.
Right.
That discovery process is where you really try and learn as much as you can about the client, because in a brand, the biggest thing you want to probably impart is your own personality or your own style or your own aesthetic. And like, that's the thing that, like, for example, like AI won't really learn about you. That discovery process in the beginning is where I like to really learn about the person that the brand is going to be really representing.
Yeah. All right. So you mentioned like Fiverr. I think that's a really good example. So let's talk about Fiverr.
Okay.
So Fiverr's it's a useful place to get logos. It is. It just depends what you're looking for. I have personally never used it for anything myself. I think at Copper Hill we might have used it for like one or two things that were outside of the company. If they were like, you know, like a development or something like that. Mm-hmm. I think maybe Andrew and Ryan might have like dabbled with it before, but I haven't used it. But like you said, Fiverr's not going to have a discovery process. They're not going to ask you, all right, like, how do you want this to go? Like, what's the vibe you're looking for? Like, what colors do you like? This, and they're just going to like spit something out.
Right.
For like very little money, which again can be cost effective. But why does it make sense to work with someone like a human being, let's say specifically locally?
Exactly. Yeah. So I've actually had clients come to me that have tried to initially go through Fiverr, and they've come to me and they've been like, here's the results that we got. and it looks like stock almost. Like there's no personality, there's no real soul in the design. And they're like, so like at that point, I would ask them, let's back it up. Like let's not start where Fiverr started. Let's go back before that.
It's like start fresh
and learn really about you and like what you're trying to represent, like really what you're trying to in like a matter of seconds have like the client or the demographic really understand about you instantaneously.
Nice.
Well, it's like the voice. It's like when you are using a brand to reflect your company or whatever you have, it's the voice of how you're speaking to the audience, right? Whether it's an existing client or a prospect or whatever. And it's using your voice to communicate kind of like in a snapshot of like, what are we all about? And like getting it into a granular visual.
It's tough, man. It's hard to do.
And I think with like, if you did a Fiverr or something, I mean, that's fine for something like, doesn't mean anything. But if you want
like rogue logos,
if you want to do rogue logos, that's, perfectly fine. But if
Cool.
you want to have your brand have meaning for what you're all about, you can't input something into a computer and just have it generate out what what you're hoping to accomplish.
Right, and that's where kind of AI comes in now, because what you're talking about, just inputting prompts
right,
into the machine and having taking the results of whatever that machine gives you back is kind of like what you're talking about there, and it doesn't really always give you results that you can really say that really represent you. It's kind of just like an amalgamation of like different parts that are like put into one. And it's really not like an original concept or thought. It's just a bunch of different pieces from one that are basically in yours. And there's a lot of copyright things involved in that too. That like it's not necessarily original. It's
well, if you have an LLM, right, you're just pulling from information that's out there,
already been done.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's not something that's unique. It's not something that's reflective of you or your company, or it's just, let's take anything that could be related to this and blah.
Right. Exactly.
Explain the LLM.
Large language modeling.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's, I don't know, it's
essentially what the core
AI.
basis of AI is. It's
Oh, okay.
it's like a learning model that's just like you're putting information into it and it's spitting you back the results of this large database.
So it's like, I always say that AI is really not new. AI is just like a Google on steroids.
It's like more
Exactly.
mainstream.
Yeah.
Well, it's
All right.
it's just it's taking information that's out there, so you have to then prompt it to pull that information and
Right.
then kind of bundle it together for the final
It's like
product.
how search engines came to be.
It's a search engine.
Exactly.
All right, so here's a good question, which, this is a good conversation about branding and, like quality branding versus like something that's like, cheaper, let's say, doesn't cost as much. Do you use any AI platforms just to like test some things? Have you messed with it a little bit? Like capabilities. What can this thing do that maybe I can or can't do? Have you done anything like that?
Right. So that's actually a good thing that I wanted to talk about, because it's like AI is not necessarily replacing people. It's just necessarily like a tool that you can use to make yourself more efficient or get to certain results quicker or comp quicker. Like if you're like, oh, I would love to see what like a suburban neighborhood looks like with our sign in it. Boom, I can like make a
prompt
quick
it.
AI that may not exist in stock photography the exact way that you want it, and we can kind of like customize that. But you wouldn't necessarily use that for like advertising or something. You can use it for maybe like social media content and things like that. So it's a tool that you're just using. It's just another tool, and the sooner that you learn how to use that tool, you'll be behind if you don't start learning how to use these tools. So I'm not suggesting not using these things. There's a usage for those things. And you can make like a theme song for this show real quick if you wanted to.
Oh,
with like
don't tell Mooney that, please.
So like things like that you can use as like a tool.
It'll be like
He's taking notes over here.
Three's Company music, like set to like something Bricks and Risk related.
So like I said, it's just like anything. It's a tool. Like you can use it for image generation, but I wouldn't recommend it necessarily for branding, because that's like a deeper kind of discovery process, like how we started the conversation.
It needs more like fine tuning. It needs that human touch. That
Well, it's supplemental, right? So you can say, hey, ChatGPT, build me out an email that I can send to my list that, gets this, and this, and it'll give it to you. Should you use it? Probably not. You should probably take that.
Because it's going to sound robotic.
And then customize it.
Right,
So,
exactly.
So it's a supplement.
Edit what you have kind of thing.
Right.
So you're supplementing kind of like, it's a tool, right?
It's a tool, exactly.
To assist in what you're trying to develop.
And I was going to ask that of you guys, like, has that come into your fields and like for like real estate, like, and for insurance, for example, like I'm sure there's usages and like there's insurance companies rolling out, programs that are like, I don't know, like denying claims or accepting claims and things like that.
Yeah. So carriers have done it specifically where they have, inputs and, I don't know if they're making the final decision when it comes to like a claim or something like that. But yeah, they're inputting in. I've seen insurance agencies. There's a company out there called Gale, and they are literally have their phone system hooked up to an AI bot that's listening to the caller, and like
a manager used to do. Essentially, they used to listen in on calls.
No, this person's talking.
Right. Okay.
So the AI bot is answering the call and say, "What can we help?"
Like role playing with a bot.
Yeah,
that's what I meant. Like role playing with a manager listening. And,
right. Yeah.
So then, actually, on Ring Central on mine, I started doing it, and it gives you notes on your. So basically, it'll listen to your call, give you notes on your after the phone call's done. It'll say, "Hey, these are the topics discussed." Blah 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 blah. And then if there's a follow-up, if it can detect a follow-up that's needed, like if I'm like, hey, I'll get back to you tomorrow, it'll then prompt you to say, hey, do you want to set a follow-up?
Wow.
Based on this? So there's major integration going on a lot of levels with AI that is, again, it's an enhancement and a tool. And you're right, like if you're not adapting to put that tool in your tool belt,
you're missing out.
A couple years,
that'd be like anti-internet like 30 years ago. It'd be like, well, I'm not going to use that. Why would I use that? And it's like, well, you should, because it can make you better at your job. You can learn more in life. You don't need Encyclopedia Britannica anymore. Like you can figure things out.
Right.
To your question, in real estate, I haven't done a ton with ChatGPT. Most of what I used it for is through content creation. So I've done a little bit for like bullet points in video content. Not so much with this show, but some of the stuff I was doing at Copper Hill prior. Also, I've done it for blog posts. Like I got back into blogging in like probably like the beginning of like 2023 maybe, and was doing it for a while. And then, Copper Hill stopped in, spring of 2024. And I plan to start using it again. But I know a lot of people in my field are using it for like role-playing scripts. They're using it for listing descriptions. Like someone gets a new listing, you got to write, 10, 20 sentences about the property. And most people are like, oh, well, you're walking through the main foyer and then you look to the left and it's the dining room. It's like, I've never written them that way.
Right.
Like what I've done with listing descriptions, I have a template that I just kind of change little things in and out because my template is based on the lifestyle and not on the home itself. It's like when people buy a home, they're buying a home because they want to be in that town or they want to be in that school district or they want that convenience or that restaurant or whatever. So that's how I have used it. But I know people in my industry pitch AI, be like, it'll write all your listing descriptions. It'll do this. I'm like, as you said, like it's a tool that can help with all that. But I've seen people even post content, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and I read it. And I'm like, dude, this is like complete copy paste.
Yeah, there's like an uncanny valley thing with both writing and with imagery. You can still tell when something looks a little fishy.
Yep.
And AI
and it has 6 fingers.
Well, the fingers is one of the main things. And also typography. It doesn't do a great job with typography. And that's
the fonts and stuff.
Yeah, and that's like typography is one of like the key things for me about branding is bringing it back to branding is typography is one of the things that we go to school for. That's one of the things that like someone who just picks up Canva and starts thinking that they're a designer doesn't have that skill, doesn't have that background, doesn't have that. I'm not talking about the rogue logos.
Yeah.
But it's
I'm very offended.
I can't wait to hear these rogue logos.
Like those are like the minutia and like the really like the nuances that really set like branding apart.
Yeah, I've seen some agencies that like go through like a whole dissertation where they have to like literally build out a portfolio. And I guess one day I'd love to do it, is like the fonts and like, what does this font mean? Does this font reflect your company and values and what culture inside of your, and then you kind of build out not only the fonts, but then the colors and the color schemes and the colors matching.
Right.
And then you kind of take that as your template, and it's everywhere, so that you're, whether it's on social media or it's, on your website, or, everything's kind of continuous based on that package.
Right. And also, like, the questions that I would ask you during that process would lead down a road that you might not have thought of, that you were like initially going for. Like, I'll be asking you questions like, is it going to be in print? Is it going to be in digital? Do you need a horizontal and a square version of it? Like, what usages are you going to be using this moving forward? Is it going to be on banners on the side of fences for like a development? Like, things like that are going to be down the road that I've experienced, that I know is going to be probably coming down the road for you at some point, are things that like a model like that wouldn't ask you. Like, it's based on experience and things like that I would know about your business.
Are you going to plaster Andre the Giant's face on a telephone pole?
Right.
If you'd want to know that if you're a designer.
Right. Exactly.
True. All right, so let me do a follow-up to my initial branding question. So you've conceptualized a real estate brand, Copper Hill Real Estate, podcast brand, Bricks and Risk, Mooney Insurance Brokers.
Yeah.
But you've also handled branding for a skincare company I was checking out on your website. So what was that like, being like a little outside of like, these business brands and stuff like that? Like, what was it like designing something for like skincare? And
then also talk about that discovery. I'd love to hear just a little bit about like the work,
the process. Yeah.
So the big difference in my experience has been either B2B or B2C. And the skincare stuff was mainly like B2C. Like, that's a whole different thing. Like, retail is a whole different sector, and B2C is like a whole another beast that I've done a lot of work in. Different audience, and it's a different approach, really. Like, you're not really trying to sell something per se to like in B2B, you're trying to more explain things in B2B.
Right. Yep.
In B2B. In B2C, you're really trying to like market and sell. So that's
someone's
like,
going to walk by this.
Right.
Does it catch their eye?
Right. You're thinking about demographics. Like, you're thinking about what is it on the shelf next to, and things like that. So you have to go do research and see what is going to be standing next to, and see what the competition looks like. B2C or B2B, I mean, is a little bit different. Yeah. It's a little bit different of an approach. So I did that also when I worked in like home decor. I wasn't developing actual home decor like Live, Laugh, Love. I wasn't the one making like that kind of thing.
Yeah, trizillionaire if you came up with that. Damn.
Like, love you to the moon and back, and you're my sunshine, things like that. But it was more of the marketing of that to like Target and to big box stores and things like that. So I would have to like create sales materials essentially for us to pitch them on the things that we were making. Nice. So that's kind of how I fell into that aspect of it. So it's been more like marketing. So I did develop some of the branding and the products in that skincare that you saw.
But it goes way beyond that.
It goes way beyond that. It's a lot of marketing involved in that. So that's where I get in depth with like the marketing angle.
Did the skincare company ever try and create a rogue Brent Bush brand?
There was a lot of things going on in that brand. It was kind of like a tumultuous company, I would say, that I don't even think really exists anymore, because that was that's a whole nother story we're not going to get into today.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's, if you haven't noticed, I keep saying rogue brands. It's kind of like an ongoing joke, because Mr. Mooney here likes to take it upon himself to take our perfectly fine and very professionally done Bricks and Risk brand from Brent, who so gladly put in his time and expertise to make sure it looks right, to go ahead and create his own clothing and give me a hat, which took him, like, I was like, am I going to see a hat before Ella has to spoon feed me? Like, my daughter's 6. So it's like, he gets me this hat. I was telling Brent, we were at our networking event, he throws me a hat. I look at it and I'm like, what the hell is this? He's like, it's our new hat. I'm like, it's not even our logo.
Couldn't get it quite right.
So I saw the picture. I was going to go to the networking event, and I couldn't make it out, but I did see the pictures afterwards.
You could tell.
And I was like, looking at the pictures, I was like,
I didn't do that.
What is going on with these?
Shit?
And I didn't want to ask. I didn't want, I was like, you know what? I handed you the brand, and if you want to go and do other things with it, like feel free, but at the same time, it kind of hurt my heart.
He wants to go.
I was like, that's my baby. What did you do with it?
What did you do? Why'd you dress it up in that?
I was like, what is going on there? Can we talk? Help me help you.
Down.
If you want a lightning bolt in there, I can help you incorporate a lightning bolt. Just let me know.
Has there ever been a time, Brent, where you were you didn't know where your brand or logo would end up, and like you were driving down 95 and John Morgan had like a Brent design on the billboard?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Like your stuff, like have you ever been like surprised or shocked, or like where like you started off with a logo at some point and it wound up somewhere and you're like, darn, that's mine, or
like saw it in the wild, like things that I've worked on
like
in the wild.
that, or
I
didn't know they would go this route with it. Like, wow, that ended up there, and that like looks really cool, or something like some
like replication kind of thing.
Yeah, a lot of that happened when I worked in tech at Broadview. There, like, because that was like a kind of like a big technology company. So
buy that stock.
So I would see like that in like different situations that I wasn't expecting to see it in, like
applications and
like
stuff.
like a Flyers game or something like that. Like they were sponsoring or something. I'd be like, whoa, and with like Copper Hill, honestly, I'd be like walking my dog in Center City and walk by a sign and be like, hey,
there's my sign.
There's Copper Hill right there. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that was pretty cool.
Nice. Hey everyone, this is Tim, your favorite Bricks and Risk co-host. But don't tell Sean. I hope you're enjoying this episode, and I'll get right back to it in a moment. Our audience grows through word of mouth, so if you would please take a moment of your time and give us a review on the platform you're on, that would be fantastic. Please also help spread the B&R word by sharing your favorite episode with a friend. We greatly appreciate your time and trust. Now, back to the show. All right, so you're a relationship guy. We're relationship guys. We've known each other since high school, full disclosure. And you've built your business through referrals. So why has that always been your approach? Is it just more your natural personality? Is there like a strategic approach to referrals?
Honestly, I think it's just become like an organic thing, to be honest with you. Like, because I do freelance design kind of as like a side thing. So it's not my core focus, but it's just kind of grown that way. Like, for example, the company I just mentioned, Broadview, my boss, while I worked there, he used to talk about making this like award company while I worked there. And then I left the company, and years later, he contacted me. He's like, hey, remember that award company that I talked to you about when we were working together? Now I'm doing it. Now I'm running it. I would like you to design all the awards for it.
That's cool.
So I still work with him. Like I met up with him recently, and we designed something for it's called We Love Tech Awards. And I still to this day work with him, and it's just that's how organically it's kind of grown, just through relationships and just doing good work for people, and they come to me and they'll refer me to someone else. Like I do some real estate things for someone in Remax, and it's grown. He's grown his brand so big just with the mailers that he does, and he'll do like a session with people across the country, and then I have people from like Salt Lake City, California, reaching out to me for real estate, and I'm like, how did this happen? And then I find out that he's referring me over his networking conversations. So that's awesome, kind of how it's grown.
Well, we'll see what happens after this Bricks and Risk podcast.
That might get shut down.
Episode releases, and people are doing rogue brand searches on Google, and they come across this episode.
I just don't want to bother them sometimes. I'm like, I can do this. Sort of.
All right, cool. One of the questions we ask is, what do you love most about what you do? And you had said bringing creative visions to life for others and myself. So what is it about like envisioning things that drives you, that you love design? I
mean, it's really been my passion since I was pretty young, just as started with like drawing and things like that. And it's just developed into this just like ongoing passion where I just like to create things. I like to make new things and put them into the world, whether it be someone's brand or just art in general. Just making new things and creating them is really what drives me. It's just I have like a never ending thirst to just keep creating things.
That's awesome, man. I actually remember like high school days. You had this badass like Jim Morrison like Doors drawing. Like, I think it was like in your room or your desk or something. I remember looking at it, I was like, did you draw that? And you're like, yeah. I was like, holy crap. Like, that's insane.
That's funny that you remember. I don't even remember that.
Well, you know, and
It was in the basement.
I could
Yeah.
always, you know, I was always like, you know, decently artistic, but like nowhere near the level that you were. And we all took like the art classes at McDevitt, and, you know, you'd see people in the class who were like gifted like you, and you'd see people like me. It was like more like a hobby. Like, I like to draw. And I remember just seeing some of your stuff and being like, man, this guy, he knows how to create things. He knows how to, because you could draw and conceptualize, which I think is hard. Like, some people can just like draw pictures and things like that. Some people can paint, but you can create, like, you can create things out of nothing, which I think is, you know, it's a gift. It's hard to do that.
Yep, and that's really what drives me is just the creativity and the creative drive.
Is there ever a project you were working on where you just couldn't get it right, or you couldn't, no matter what you did, the person was like, no, Brent, this isn't it. This isn't what we were looking for.
Yeah, that's happened. It's not like writer's block per se, but you know, you do hit these creative walls, and you have to kind of keep, you know, sometimes go back to the drawing board and just wipe the slate clean and just figure out a new approach to it.
It's almost like crumple it up.
Just start over.
Throw it in the trash
to
can.
your point when you were talking earlier about, okay, you got it thus far, but like, no, we don't want to start and pick up here. Let's kind of go back to the beginning and have that conversation.
Yeah, and sometimes it takes multiple rounds. Like, you know, I go into a project expecting myself to be able to reach like a resolution that the client is happy with within like 3 rounds per se. Like that's like the rough estimate. But sometimes, and sometimes I would only like to provide like 3 options and narrow it down myself. But then there's some clients who are just like, show me everything you do, and I will help you narrow it down from there. So there's some clients where I'll just show like all of my work, you know, and just be like, here's all of my thoughts. Like, is there anything in here that like interests you? And, you know, sometimes that's the more effective approach. It really just depends on the client, really. And, you know, sometimes like you'll come to me, you have a vision. You'll come to me, you have a vision.
Yeah.
Like in the past branding things that we've all done together.
We talked about it on the show. Remember my loose leaf?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. The birth of Mooney Insurance Brokers, and
That's right.
You had a pretty clear vision.
I kind of knew what I
drew
wanted.
these things out. I remember Copper Hill was probably not super complex. I think we kind of came to you with like a concept. We're like, we want it to be like a gas lamp. We want to look like modern, but we want to have like a classic element to it.
Right.
And then you gave us, I don't know how many treatments, and maybe we had to go through a few rounds.
Yeah, I do remember some of those sketches that I had for that, and it was really just figuring out the exact style of gas lamp that we were going to use for that, from what I remember.
Yeah.
And for yours, it was really just finding the perfect letter form that really identified what you were going for. And you had a few different ideas, but we simplified, and we brought it down to like, you know,
That's
the
what I like.
end that it is.
That's what I like about you and your approach is like, you can almost take, you know, 50 and you're like, all right, well, what are these like top 3, or like, where are you part of your process is like, you're leading us through that development phase. And it's like a funnel, and like, you're kind of pulling us through the funnel to get us closer. Like one step, you know, is a step closer to the final product. And I think between conversations and different variations that you kind of put together is you're kind of, okay, well, what do you like about this?
Yes, those questions are like one of the most important parts about the process. Right. Is if you say like, I don't like this, or I do like this, like, what is it about that you like?
What are you feeling?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the part of the process where the human element really comes into play.
And it's effective because it's like, you're without that, right? Without knowing the why, and it's like, you can't just understand intuitively, like,
right,
this is better than this.
Right. And there's, you know, with certain clients that I know well, that I've worked with for a long time, there is an intuitive element. I can I can kind of understand.
You and I have done so many things together.
Right. And when you say you don't like something, I kind of know what it was you didn't like, and I can kind of take it from there because we've worked together for so long.
Right.
But with a new client, I don't really have that intuitive angle, and I have to learn that.
You have to like get to know them and figure
like
it
the
out.
kid and play flat top on a lightning bolt.
Or the one, was a kid, I guess, that had the dreads coming out, used to cut the holes at the top of the hat, and his dreads would like hang out.
Kid.
Was that kid? And play was flat top.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
I think that's right.
All right. So
Dylan, can you fact check?
You fact check Kid and Play which one was which. All right. So biggest struggle. This is another one we like to talk about. So for biggest struggle, you said avoiding burnout and getting past creative blocks, as Sean was just talking about.
Yep.
So what's kind of like do you have like a solution or method for getting around it? Like when you get to that point, you feel like you hit a wall and you're not getting where you want to go in the amount of time you want to go, or you're hitting a wall. It's like, I thought I knew the direction, but now I have no clue. Like, it's like almost a mental block. Like, how do you get past something like that?
Yeah. So the time thing you mentioned is interesting because if you're like, if I'm in a situation where I'm billing hourly and there's a budget and I can't go over this amount of time, and it's basically like you're constricted, your creativity is constricted to this amount of time, that makes it difficult sometimes if you are hitting that creative block to get to the end point within that stretch of time. And sometimes you almost have to, like, if you can't do it, you almost have to like put in extra time that you're not
Gotcha. Yeah.
outside
Account
of scope,
for it.
like outside of budget, because like you're not happy with the product. Like, and that's part of where like the decision making you have to make, like can I get there with just like a few more hours of this or this? And that's part of the struggle, really, is what you asked about. And that's part of the struggle is really just honing your creativity into sometimes a time frame.
Awesome, man.
Outside of Copper Hill, Mooney Insurance, Tim Garrity Team, Bricks and Risks, what was like the most fun you had on a project?
Those all being number one equal?
Yeah, like 1A, 1B, 1C.
No bias.
I mean, that's the most fun. What would make it
not
fun?
because it was the end product, but like a fun collaborative, like where you really just enjoyed working on it.
I mean, I think we had a nice stretch of time with Copper Hill.
Yeah.
That I really enjoyed.
Worked
it. Like
on so many different things.
We worked on so many different things, and we really built it from like the ground up.
Yeah, and it went so many different directions, like the different things you were creating.
I love the map in the office.
Oh, that was great. That was fun too.
Badass.
That was awesome.
And like the entryway thing behind the second, like behind like
we built,
desk.
dude. You helped build our culture. Like that's
and it was cool walking into that office. Once all of that was done, it felt like
you're like, man, I like designing.
It like really grew up. Like this is pretty cool. And like just going into that office, I think that was one of the coolest experiences.
Yeah, I remember we used to have like our monthly meetings, and you would come in, and I remember one time you were like, dude, this is pretty bad that you guys made it here.
Yeah,
and like my work is everywhere.
Yeah,
like everywhere you would look. It was even like you'd walk into the conference room and we'd have the banners that you could pull up,
the stretch
that
banners.
we would have at like our Copper Hill annual events. Like you even helped us like design stuff for print, for banners, for training, for marketing, for our website,
social media, a lot of the social media things that we did
tokens, like all sorts of like little things.
I would come in and see different merch when I would pop in. I'd be like, oh wow, this is cool. This is really growing. It was really cool to watch that grow.
Yeah.
Tchotchkes, like Office Space.
Tchotchkes.
Did you guys have any?
Oh yeah. Where's your flare?
Yeah.
How many pieces of flare do you have?
Ping pong paddles.
We used to rock flare. All right, so tip for our listeners and watchers, you had said prioritize what it takes to build your brand right, and establishing that equity up front is the keystone to your business. Why do you feel like that's a good thing to pass on to people that are checking us out?
It's like a cart before the horse situation.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people try and rush past this part of the process, thinking like, oh, I'll just develop it later. But like
That looks fine.
But your first contact points without having that established are like missed opportunities to establish that equity. Like you're basically like going in and you're not getting the amount of respect that your business should have right away because you haven't developed that part right away.
Right.
And putting in that work up front and just prioritizing that up front will give you a lot of equity and recognizability like moving forward. And those are all missed opportunities. That you all those touch points that you've established without having that established.
It's a first impression.
Yeah.
And first impressions are huge. And if you have this, if your first impression is like a misfit, unprofessional type of logo or media kit or whatever it might be, then that's going to weigh on a decision, to work with you as a business or not.
Right. Exactly.
It's huge.
I think it's huge too. And it's like you have to build it as part of your business plan as a priority, and it's not always a priority in the front end of people's business plan.
Right.
Like they're concerned about this or that, like any other thing, and maybe that's like a middle step of the process. But I'm just trying to champion it being in the beginning of the process.
It's like if you go to a website for someone, you could be turned off like in an instant,
Right.
because you're like, well, I'm not doing business with them.
If it's just a template or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember you had said one episode, I can't remember which one it was, and you were saying, we were talking about your brand, the Moody Insurance Brokers brand, which you designed, and you had said like, so many of the independent brokerages don't even have a brand.
No.
They just write their name at the top, Johnson Insurance or
Right.
whatever it is. And, you know, they're like, we don't need a brand. Like we're selling a commodity. It's through relationships or whatever. We bought a book of business, whatever it is. And I remember even when you hit the scene, like 12 years ago, like that was a standout brand in my opinion, because no one really had that in insurance.
Well, here's something too. So like we work with real estate people and mortgage people, and we're always sending paperwork.
Yep.
And one of the most common things is for a new home purchase, we have to send a certificate. Certificate's like, here's your coverage, here's the date it starts, gives all the details. I whitewash mine and put my logo on that form.
Do you?
So that every real estate and mortgage person, because they'll never see a logo or brand or any type of identifier. They'll see like a written text.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? But for me, it's like, I want to stand out. I'm using
You want them to see the brand.
Yeah, because they're like, oh, well, what is this? We've never seen this before, right? Like who? And then it's like, well, who is this? And why are they doing this? Or why are they taking the time to add this to the paperwork, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, not like a calling card, but it is.
It becomes identifiable. People see the brand. It doesn't necessarily have to say the name of the company next to it or underneath it or above it. You'll be like, I know that brand. That's that.
I think it's also a certain level of professionalism that you want to achieve. You know, like if you don't have it, it looks like you haven't put the time in to develop it. And it just doesn't get you to a certain level of professionalism, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Uh-oh.
1,010%.
All right, what do we got here? Is this a surprise?
It's got the official logo.
Well,
so
it obviously
it's a
has
good
to.
start.
Yeah,
I did use
thank God.
the knot. I do have a bag full
You
of
got
knots.
decent penmanship there. You wrote that?
We've seen the sketches.
Yeah, we have. It's
You've
true.
seen my work.
So am I opening this?
You're opening it.
All right, it's our first.
This is
gift to
actually
a guest on a show.
This is just a thank you from Tim and I.
It's an unboxing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's ASMR.
What do they call that?
We're gonna put this on YouTube as an ASMR
card
video.
break. My kid watches the kids open packs of cards.
This is packed really well, guys. What's going on here?
I don't know. I haven't even seen it yet. So I'm gonna be as surprised as you are.
Just a thank you for all your work along the way.
Oh, this is feeling like some drinkware, guys.
Ooh, look at this. What do we got here? We got a set of 12.
You know that did you see me post these? Love it. Nice work.
What do we got
And
here?
It's got the gold rim. And it's by this artist. I can't remember the name on here.
Look
Where
at
is he?
this. Oh,
Tell a story,
how
Brent.
nice.
Clue them in.
This guy. There it is, right there. So
Yep.
I'll let you tell the story. How many is there? 4 in here?
I think there's 2.
Oh, nice. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Very cool.
I thought it was gonna
All
be.
right, so
I thought it
what's-
was gonna be branded merch.
What?
That's next episode.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be more rogue shit, basically.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
What's the story on this?
So these are from like I want to say the 70s. My parents had these.
Oh, no way. That's
And-
cool.
And you want to tell the story about the artist?
I don't know all the details. All I know that was the posting out that you had.
Yeah. So I just really I think those things are really
Oh, yeah,
awesome.
it's very classic.
classic. Happy
Real old
holidays. I
school.
love the font
God, it
on these
almost has
guys.
like a Philly vibe to it.
Yeah.
With that type.
They're and they're a collector, and I
Inquirer.
knew that guy's name was going to be on there. It's like a thing.
That's
So,
awesome.
appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Very cool, man. All right. So in the quote you gave us was, I strive for 2 things in design, simplicity and clarity. Great design is born of those 2 things, by Lyndon Leader. Why was that the quote you chose?
Lyndon Leader, pretty sure I chose that because you know the FedEx logo?
Oh yeah, with the arrow.
That's who designed it. So
Really?
that's a person that
Some people don't see that.
I mean, once you see it, you can't unsee
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's a designer that I probably use a quote as because of just like this. Like I find like the simplicity and just like the crisp legibility and the simplicity is really like will set you apart. And like you can put cool things into the design without like really be like going over the top. I like a subtle detail, like the arrow and the FedEx logo, and that's why I use that quote.
That's cool.
Awesome.
All right. Before we shut this one down, why don't you tell our listeners and watchers where they can learn more about you and everything you got going on?
So you can email me at any time, brent.bush@gmail.com. Always a good way to start the conversation. My portfolio is online. It's it's Brent.
Brent Bush Design.
BrentBushDesign.com. Yeah. So you can see a lot of my work there. I haven't updated it recently, but it's one of the things in 2025. I want to get a lot of my 2024 work up on that site, so I'll be getting that up on there soon.
Insta, you got good Insta. So you got good Insta material.
So I try to share some design insights, but not all design. Mix it with a little bit of lifestyle and things like that, like you do as well with yours.
Yep.
And you can find me there. I sometimes post client work if I get so inspired to catch up on some of my work on there.
Appreciate it, man.
Awesome.
All right. That's all we have for this one, folks. Thank you for tuning in again to another episode of Bricks and Risk. See you soon. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Bricks and Risk. Our goal is that you walk away with 1 or 2 valuable nuggets, and we greatly appreciate you sharing your time with us today. You can find all BNR episodes on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and anywhere else you get your podcast content. Until next time, keep learning and keep growing.